All right, good morning. Well, we are back out here, and today we are going to be cutting a hole in this wall because what I have to do is I have to put a window in here eventually. So to anticipate that and get ready for that, and before we do concrete, I have to build basically a wooden substructure called a buck, B-U-C-K. And what that's going to basically do is get implanted into the styrofoam. We'll pour concrete around it, and then it gives us something to actually screw and nail the window to when we go to install the windows. My plans call it 10 foot 11 inches from the outside of the form. So I got 13 inches of form, so I actually need to go 9 foot 10 inches to the center of the window. All right, so I've got my window width laid out. Now I want to set my window sill height, which I think I'm gonna go 22. All right, so using a laser, I basically went off my 2-inch line, and now I'm gonna establish my bottom line all the way across. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put little crow's feet in here, which are just little arrows or carrots, some people call them. And that's gonna give me a good line to snap my line off of. This was definitely a part of the process that if I were to do this again, I would probably go ahead and just do this before all the blocks were in place, like build the buck and set the blocks around it. I thought cutting through this styrofoam would be a lot easier, and the styrofoam was fine, but it's all that internal webbing, and I have rebar in there already, and getting all that stuff cut out to the dimensions I needed was just a real pain. All right, we've got our opening cut. Let's go ahead and get our buck made. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this treated 2x6 and I'm gonna cut it in half with a 30-degree angle. And what this is gonna do is this is gonna be, like we did on our end caps here, it's gonna create that dovetail cleat that's gonna grab onto that concrete around the windows. That's a wonky board, but it don't have to be perfect. At a 30-degree bevel, I'm just gonna go ahead and plunge and make this cut. Okay, now that gives me 2 of these. I'll show you what we're gonna do with those next. Okay, so I have a little cut list and a drawing here on my phone. So I need 4 of these at 34 for the tops and bottoms, and then I'm gonna need 4 of them at 43 to each side. With all my cleats cut, I have a sheet of 1/2-inch treated ply here, and this is basically going to make the platform that we're going to set the window on, kind of like how we did the caps over here. So this has already been ripped to 13 inches, which is obviously the overall width of the wall. So again, I'm going to refer to my cut list, and I'm going to start cutting a couple pieces out. So let's do that. Whew, that temperature is not coming up at all. I might need to put my actual insulated bibs on. Okay, so the key to these is that I kind of want these to lock together. Basically, this is going to be the cover for the side. So I've cut the cleats 1 inch long because it's 1/2-inch plywood. So I want to overhang it 1/2 inch on each side because the top and bottoms are going to sort of lock into these. And before I go ahead and put this together, I'm going to put this seal gasket in between everything and just staple it down. And I'm going to use 1 5/8 deck screws because these are coated and these will be staying. And it's just going to go like that. I got 3 more to make. Now this is actually the day before the concrete was set to be delivered. So Betsy came out to help me get the site sort of cleaned up and prepped and then go over some final design changes before we got concrete. So you can see I've got a hangover here, 1.5 inches, and I've got 1.5 inches material here that's set back 1/2 inch. That's also to account for that. So basically I kind of just knock this together like this. And then I'm using 3-inch deck screws. All right, I think my camera battery died, but I did get this thing put together. So let's see if we can. Okay. And all I'm really doing here is just checking to make sure it's close within tolerance kind of deal. I'll shim the window and get that all set, but it definitely helps if you start with something that's decent. So that looks like it's only about 1/8 of an inch out across, and I think I can live with that. And then I'm just adding a little extra bracing on this to hold the buck in place when we start pouring hundreds and hundreds of pounds of concrete all over this thing. Now the idea behind this is I basically just want to be able to hold this buck flush with the outside of the wall. These walls are 13 inches thick. I'm going to have interior jam extensions and all kinds of casing and stuff to do on the inside. So I'm already anticipating trimming that out. So I'm not really concerned about matching that inside when the window gets put in. But for siding and for sort of water management, I do want everything to be as flush as possible on the outside for flashing and all the siding and stuff. Now I did go ahead and put some foam in there just to seal it up. And then tomorrow when we start pouring all the concrete in here, we'll go ahead, we'll put this on. This will cap, it'll get screwed on. And then I did cut some braces as well that will have one big brace here to kind of help support this a little bit. And then we'll also be adding some more rebar across the top of there because this concrete actually becomes the header. And I spoke with Lightform today. I didn't know if I needed to do a glue lam or what, and the rep told me just put some extra rebar up there, make sure it's at least 8 inches thick, and that ICF becomes your header. It will bear the weight of anything you put on top of it within reason. So that is what we're going to do. So other than that, we're pretty much ready for concrete, and that is going to be tomorrow, and we'll pick you up then. All right, the day is finally here. We are ready to pour concrete in our ICF walls. I'm actually just waiting on a couple other guys that got coming to help. And we got concrete here coming in a couple hours, so we got a few things to button up, but then we'll be ready to pour.
Shane has actually poured these ICFs before, so when he showed up the day of concrete delivery, he just thought we needed to add a little more bracing in some extra places and just give us sort of a belt and suspenders sort of approach to this whole thing. Alright, so I apologize for the sound, but the microphone actually turned off during, inactive use while it was just sitting there on the camera. But basically, we started with the frost wall, and Jeff ran the pump while Shane and Jim were sort of screeding. And then here I'm coming behind it with the vibrator. That's a Milwaukee vibrator with an 8-inch hose. And just making sure you get that in the center of the wall every couple of feet all the way down, just to kind of get that concrete settled in there a little better. Now things got a little hectic when that mud started flowing, so I didn't get any footage, but those window bucks worked out perfect. Those caps on the ends worked out really nice, kept everything in there solid, and basically all you got to remember is to shove that vibrator down into those bucks a little bit to make sure that concrete worked itself in there properly. So in total, this ended up being around 23 yards of concrete run through that pump machine. The pump operator was really handy. He was really good, very experienced guy. He made it really easy on us. We did have a little bit of overflow here and there, but I think that was more on our end than anything. Okay, so at this point, the concrete trucks are gone, the pump truck is gone, and it's just us left on site. So that concrete has been sitting for 15-20 minutes. Plenty of time to set up to go ahead and put our sill plates on and get these anchor bolts pressed in there properly. And again, we're setting those anchor bolts to the proper depth to account for that 1/4-inch bearing plate that's going to go on top of it to really suck that plate down to that concrete. And here's how we end up finishing out the frost wall. We didn't worry about, floating the top of that. We just needed to shove some rebar on the top of it because the top of that frost wall is going to accept our thickened edge slab, which will fill most of this interior part of the build.
All right, well, that's pretty much it. We just got done pouring all the concrete into our ICF walls. Really great experience, really great product. I'm really happy with how everything came out. Everything we kind of thought about in the beginning with the caps on all the step downs, those all worked out beautifully. Every time the concrete starts flowing, things kind of get a little hectic, but I think we got through it really well. We had a really good operator from the concrete company come out and run the pump truck for us. And I just couldn't be happier or more grateful to have the group of guys, Shane and Jeff and Jim out here helping me do this and really teaching me how to do this, more me helping them, to be honest. In a couple weeks, we'll hopefully be able to throw some lumber at this thing and actually get to framing, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to bring you along as well. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. That's going to wrap it up for us today. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool for us. And there's going to be a lot more content on this build coming up this summer. So if this is something you're into, stick around and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.